So, my beloveds, I'm always extremely honored to be with you. I feel as though I've won the lottery. I won the lottery because I came into this life as a Caribbean Catholic. I was born in Haiti, and my mother is a mystical Christian. But still, you know, there are limitations. There's so much there, so much goodness and beauty, but there are limitations in that philosophy. And thank goodness my parents were teachers and instilled a love of reading in our lives, because I discovered New Thought books in the library. So I always give thanks that I found these books that taught me that I was not a victim, that taught me my thinking was creative, that it would produce after its own kind, that my thinking, my thoughts, and my feelings were a seed that is planted in universal mind. And what is this universal mind? It's this invisible force field. In the science of mind, Ernest Holmes says that God is the engineer, and the law of mind, this force field, is the engine. So whatever you place a seed into that soil, this invisible force field that is all around us, you will bear fruit. I am constantly in awe of spirit, meditating. Once again, I typically have 2 or 3 sermons prepared. I go into meditation the day before, or 2 days before, or even the morning of, and Spirit gives me a sermon. And the sermon was, what seeds are you sowing in your field? What seeds are you planting? Bob said, well, Black church in the house. The Black elders, they knew these. They would express their deep, shaking that head, because you're happy to know the truth, but you know you have to apply it. So when they go, well, it's about, do you have the courage to do the thing you're about to be taught or reminded of? Because we can listen, but are we taking action, and are we embodying? So let me use my handy iPad. I love that we can get the Bible online, and I'm going to read Matthew 12:13, verses 1 through 23. And I always remind us, because we may have live streamers in the future, or someone new who's looking on, we are a metaphysical, spiritual community. What does that mean? We interpret the Bible metaphysically. We see it as a spiritual allegory, a spiritual sacred story, with Adam and Eve representing our soul. And everyone that we meet in the Bible, every character, every story, is the journey of our soul to awakening. So as Jesus resurrected, we can either stay in the tomb of regret, fear, doubt, or worry, or we can raise into our God consciousness and awaken to the very presence of God within us and everywhere in the cosmos. So that journey is our journey. So instead of arguing with the Bible, we don't argue. We realize that it's a gift to have these sacred texts that every religion has. We haven't cornered the market as a spiritual community that is rooted in the Christian tradition, because this is where we find ourselves here in the Western world. But there is a sacred text of all religions, and they remind us that we are a soul on a hero's journey to awakening. So in Matthew chapter 13, verse 1 through 23, this is the parable of the sower. The same day that Jesus went out of the house and sat by a lake, such a large crowd gathered around him that he got into the boat and sat in it, while all of the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was gathering the seeds, some fell on the path, and some birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where there was not much soil, and it sprung up quickly, but because the soil was shallow, it died. So when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still, other seeds fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times that which was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and said, Rabbi, why do you speak to the people in such parables? He replied, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, and yet you do not hear, and yet you do not see. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even then, much will be taken. Serenity, more shall be added. According to your consciousness, your thought, your feeling, your words, and your actions, it shall be done to you. And we've seen it. And the other statement, those who have little shall have even less. If you have a poverty consciousness, and we've seen it in lottery winners, if you have a poverty consciousness, those who don't build up that consciousness and who win millions of dollars, we've all heard it, they are broke and in a worse position 2 to 5 years to 10 years later. Because by right of consciousness, they could not maintain that which had manifested in their lives because they were still abiding in poverty. Now, does that mean we have to be perfect? Not at all. We can grow our consciousness. So let's say you win $1 million or more by right of consciousness. You must maintain that state, and you pray affirmatively, and you meditate, and you read, and you learn. You will keep your millions of dollars. We don't have to arrive at the pinnacle. We don't have to be there right now. We can be growing. Just the intention to grow, just the intention to embody, just the intention to know the truth. By grace, we are blessed. When the universe sees that you are willing to be a student, you receive. But if you don't know, and you're unwilling to grow, and you're unwilling to practice and learn by right of consciousness, it will be removed from you. That statement, if the theologians would just come to a New Thought church, they would get it. But there's still an argument. Why did Jesus say that? It sounds kind of mean. It doesn't make sense. But he's talking about the universal laws of consciousness and of creation. What are the seeds that you are sowing? So I have a very interesting, funny little manifestation about a seed that I sowed. It's somewhat superficial, but it shows us the focus of the mind. And I feel as though the universe has given me these experiences so that I could instantly see that my thought was creative. So about 6 to 7 years ago, I was visiting my brother in LA. It was very funny. I hadn't seen my nephew, my baby nephew, for a while, and my brother always cracks me up. The day that I arrived, the night before, the next day everyone disappears. My sister-in-law They're like, you're here. And so my brother, I said, when are you coming back? He said, bond with your nephew. I said, well, what happens if he cries? You're his aunt. You're my sister. He'll be fine. So he left me home with the baby, and I bonded with my nephew. And my nephew, I feel like he's a Buddha. That little baby has such a tranquility and wisdom. He was hanging out with me, just staring at me, and I had him on my hip. And my brother has a big flat screen TV. I don't know why TVs need to be that big, but I digress. So there was a commercial of Maybelline that came on, and Gwen Stefani, I don't know if you guys know who Gwen Stefani is, of no doubt, a rock pop singer, came on the screen advertising lipstick. I stood in front of the TV, and I remember I got very focused. I don't know why, but in that moment I got very focused, and I thought, I've really always liked her. She seems like a really good person. I've always liked her energy. I said that a few times. That was it. Went about my day, the rest of my day. My best friend is a minister at Agape, Reverend Arlene Hilton. She came to pick me up. All my friends are vegan. I'm a vegetarian, but when I'm in LA, I'm a vegan because if you eat a piece of cheese, it's like a sacrilege. Anyway, she decided that we were going to go out to dinner to a restaurant in Redondo Beach. It was about an hour and a half. It was a vegan Mexican restaurant. So I remember it was, the freeway is always filled with cars. It was about 6 o'clock. It took us forever. It took us about 2 hours. It's about a 45-minute drive, but with traffic, it took forever. We got there. She went to park. I was in the restaurant all by myself. So I sit in the restaurant, and I remember I was sitting at a window seat. So there was this beautiful cushion. I walked in, and they were like, you can sit anywhere. And I laughed. There was no one there. And I sat down. About 30 minutes goes by, and I see this kind of, looks Indian with funky blonde hair. And I'm like, oh, he looks familiar. It's short. And then I see this like tall, very funky white guy walk in. And I'm like, wow, he looks so familiar. And then I see this skinny blonde in a ponytail walk in. And she looks over at me and she waves. And I'm like, she looks super familiar. And she sits right across from me. So literally, as you guys see me on the screen, she sits 20, 15 feet right across from me, and she's smiling, and I go, hello, I go, oh, she's so nice, and then I look, and I go, that's Gwen Stefani. How did this happen? I'm in the restaurant, my girlfriend's not even, she hasn't come back because she's having to park all the way down the street, but here I am in a vegan restaurant, 2 hours away from where my brother lives, 40 minutes, it took us 2 hours, that I've never been to. About 5 hours before, on that big screen TV, she came into view. I said, I've always liked her energy. She seems like a great person. And Gwen Stefani showed up in the screen of my life about 4 hours later. Of course, my best friend was like, of course, we're metaphysicians. This is the universe showing you that your thought is real. And when you get intentional, you can manifest. So I know we'll say, well, Martine, why haven't I manifested the $1 million or the health in my body? This was something I was not attached to. This was something I was very neutral about. A lot of times, the things that we are trying to manifest or the seed that we want to plant, and I'm rounding this up, my loves. I feel like I'm going on a long time. We're attached to the outcome, and there's emotion around it, and there's fear around it, and then we have to get all that off of it in order to plant it in good soil so it will bear fruit. So we're spending time trying to build our faith muscle. I wasn't attached to meeting Gwen Stefani. I didn't care. It was like, wow, and I let it go. You know how we say in New Thought, you say your affirmations, you do your meditations, and you release it to God. This or something better. That process of releasing is what takes time, and that's why we must pray and be in alignment with Spirit. Because by grace, God's going to bring it about for us, because we're like this about it. And once we can open our palm and say, this or something higher, Yes, I want health in my body, but I release it. I'm going to be happy regardless of this dis-ease. Yes, I want abundance beyond measure, but I'm releasing it. I'm going to have an abundant consciousness right out now, even if I have 4 pennies in my bank account. Yes, I want this divine right relationship, but I'm going to release it and be happy and joy-filled and see the love in my life right now, even if I don't have it. If we were to do that, my beloveds, the seeds would blossom, bloom, and grow faster in the soil of our consciousness. So in my journal, I wrote down, and Spirit was like, tell them about Gwen Stefani. I was able to manifest. So I spent dinner eating my wonderful vegan meal with Gwen Stefani, who'd look up at me because she's probably like, why am I attracted to this woman? And I, she didn't know. I saw you this afternoon, Gwen, on the screen, and I thought you were a great person. So she'd look at me and she would smile and she waved, and they left. I never spoke with her. They got up and left, and she gave me a thumbs up and like couldn't stop looking because by right of consciousness, I had drawn her into my life. And to bring reality, I go home to my brother. My brother's like, this is Hollywood. I'm a musician. You're an artist. These stars are everywhere. That doesn't mean anything. I was like, yeah, it does mean something. He was like, Gwen Stefani lives in the neighborhood. I was like, not in my neighborhood. So,
Hello.
my beloveds, what seeds are you sowing in your field? So I'm saying humbly, let's sow some good seeds. Let's stay awake to the fact that we are creators, that by divine right, health is ours, wealth is ours, harmony is ours. Every good thing, knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are just the beginning. We must also live the truth we know, and so it is.